Hey guys, thank you for checking out this episode. We'd love your support by heading to patreon.com/freshly grounded. It really does make a difference in helping us continue making this content. And if not, no stress. Enjoy. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Freshly Grounded episode 204, maybe. Welcome to Freshly Grounded. This episode will be with my brother, Omar Choudhry, inshallah, who is, episode 204, cool. My brother, Omar, who...
you didn't anything big for the 200, did you, this time?
Okay, listen. We're on the intro right now.
Oh,
yeah?
okay.
You haven't been introduced yet.
Right, okay, I'm not here.
We're pretending that you're not here.
All right.
This episode will be with my brother, Omar Choudhry, who has already rudely interrupted this intro. And you know, it's COVID. Most of these episodes are virtual, but Omar and I are working in the same workplace.
We're in the same bubble.
Yeah, if I had a bubble, Omar would be my bubble man. So, look forward to an episode with Mr. Omar. Check the link in our description for all of the stuff that we're currently supporting. Charities, projects that we're currently supporting. Do check them out with the link in our description. Also, a few other announcements. We've released a free version of the lockdown game. No, sorry. Scratch that. We have a Freshly Grounded the game, right? Our amazing conversation cards, which have taken the social media by storm. Jazakallah khair to everyone who's purchased a game and who's benefited from it. But we also have just released a lockdown digital version for free, which you can access on our website by going to freshlygrounded.com and then clicking the button at the top. Also, although the cards went back out of stock, they're now available to pre-order again, and they're in production and will be ready to be shipped out, inshallah, by the end of this month. And again, it's a limited batch, and so if you do want to get yours, don't wait until they're off pre-order, because you never know if you could be able to grab one, you know? Cool. In that case, let's get into Freshly Grounded episode 204.
And welcome to Freshly Grounded, the brand new podcast.
Well, it's not exactly brand new anymore, is it?
Welcome to Freshly Grounded, the podcast.
That's better.
Created by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Huh?
I said welcome to Freshly Grounded.
After that bit.
Created by
After that bit.
best friends Faisal and Sam.
Really?
Okay, and now you're unmuted, so everything you say can and will be recorded, and may be used against you in a court of evidence
On YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube. I just realised that your camera is so dinga, bruv.
Is it?
Yeah, let me just adjust it.
I bought a whole confectionery store with me. I walked into the room, I bought Kinder Bueno, 7-Up Mojito, which, by the way, is not sponsoring this podcast, but is one of the most delicious drinks right now in the game. And I got some water here by Highland Spring. Very cold water.
Okay. I actually tried your Mojito 7-Up the other day from your desk, and it wasn't all that. But I don't really that much.
Was it cold though?
No, I don't like my drinks cold.
Wow.
And now I kind of want to adjust my camera. Yeah, I've got way too much headspace.
Yeah?
Sorry. And people are watching this. Oh, I can't.
You're like the Nutty Professor, but podcast version. Is that the right guy? Who's the guy that plays loads of different things? That's Nutty Professor, innit?
Yeah, I think people like the fact that...
You're the clumps of the podcast.
I feel like people like the fact that it's natural, you know? Like, it shows how natural it is, the fact that we're still setting it up on live on air.
That's how to describe it, natural.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to...
I can't believe we haven't got new bulbs for this.
I know, I was just screaming about this. I said to Chris, when we first got these bulbs, we bought 4 each because we were like, when we go back to IKEA, we'll grab
You've been to IKEA about 1,000 times.
I know, we haven't grabbed it. Yeah, Cream's always there as well. So
you just get a random bulb that doesn't matter just to put one in.
I know, we need to grab it.
I think it would change the whole vibe.
It would add to it because for sure we've done 200
You just want shoulder
And you can see it every time. And do you know what's
Shoulder
funny
glow.
is that not that many people actually like put us up on it and say that we need another bowl.
You just spot the difference. Anyway, go on. Talk to me, Ray.
Okay, so it's hard to speak to you knowing that we've got mics on and cameras on, because I remember I said to you literally the other day that I don't like when people put like that really well put on like their public voice.
I'm putting on my public voice.
No, I'm putting on my public
All
voice.
right.
Yeah, you're right. But that's because like behind this mic and like behind these cameras, I'm aware that I'm recording an episode of Freshly Grounded.
No, you're being normal,
But
bro.
it
I
takes
don't
me a
think you're
minute.
putting on public voice.
It takes me a minute to. It takes me a minute to. Bro, I still got dust in my beard. Oh no, my beard's going grey.
Let me see.
Or is it the lighting? There.
Ray from here, but I can't tell. It might be lighting.
That's really sad. Okay. Now, every time you're on the podcast, or we speak about like people that you're quite like kind of inspired by at that time, because it's always changing, like depending on what's happening in your life.
You're
And,
so
like,
easily influenced.
yeah. So it's been like Jeff Bezos,
Ronald McDonald.
who's that guy? Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Oh, I was going to actually ask you who it is today, but I've actually got someone in my mind. Have you heard of Terry Crews's story?
Yeah.
Oh,
I have. Yeah. I think was he on Joe Rogan once or something? He was on
Mike
something.
Tyson's podcast.
Maybe I don't think I listened to it
Mike Tyson's
about. Maybe I listened to it on. It might have been like some other podcast. Maybe Tim Ferriss actually. I think. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so pretend you haven't.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm about to tell you.
Yeah.
So, despite how he looks, obviously, which is physically very well built, he's really against toxic masculinity.
Mhm.
And the reason he's against toxic masculinity is because his father was toxically masculine,
Yeah.
right? Like he was like this, this idea of like what the man should be like, this, which is like extremely masculine, too much to the right with his masculinity, like no emotions at all. Like basically not how a balanced man should be, right? Which is like soft in the house, playful, but yes, masculine for sure. But he was like just like completely the other side.
Sorry,
Let's
Dad.
stop playing footsie.
Sorry, that's you.
Right. So his dad used to like abuse the mum, right? And so when he was growing up, he used to think to himself like, one day I'm gonna sort you out, because he was too small at the time. But he's like, one day I'm gonna like be big enough to basically hit you back or whatever. And then what happened is he grew up and then he got married and stuff and he had kids. And one day he took his kids to his dad's house for the first time. So this was him as an adult. And before he took his kids to his dad's, this is from what I heard on the Mike Tyson podcast. From when he took his kids to his dad's house, he said to his dad, "I'm bringing my kids for the first time. Don't act up, please. Right? Like just be normal." Took his kids, dropped them to the mum and dad's house, and then he took his wife out and they went like on a date or whatever. As he's out, his auntie calls him and says, "Your dad's just punched your mum in the face, knocked one of her teeth out." And he said that he realized that it was just because he told his dad, "Don't act up." Like his dad was like, "Oh, like no one tells me what to do." Like it was like a power thing, like don't tell me what to do. And so just for the sake of like spite and like don't tell me what to do, I'm going to do what I want, he hit his mum again, right? And Terry Crews said that what he did is he drove back home straight away. He dropped his wife to the auntie's house. He told the auntie, "Take the kids to your house," and he drove to his dad's house. And he got, do you know about this part of the story?
Yeah.
Oh. He drove to his dad's house and his dad was still there, the mum was still there. And he said that he beat his dad to a pulp.
Mhm.
And the amazing thing of it was he said that at the end of it, he said that he dreamt about this day, right? Of like beating his dad up, like where he could beat his dad up and just
Decimating.
just give him all the revenge for like his whole childhood watching his mum being beaten up by this man. And he said as he was beating him up and as his dad was on the floor and he was over him and he had full like control over this situation, he said that he thought that he would feel the biggest satisfaction on this day, and he said he felt absolutely no satisfaction, and he felt like, I am what my dad is. Like no satisfaction, but he just felt like he's resorted down to what his dad was resorted
Very
to.
powerful, man.
He didn't feel happy about it, and he said from that day he decided that anger, anger and like violence is not the way that he's going to run his life, because that was his ultimate goal, was to like just give his dad some, and he did, and he got no satisfaction, and he just felt horrible about it.
Wow. I remember hearing that as well. He just speaks a lot about his abuse and what he went through as well, which is insane, and even what he went through in the industry in Hollywood itself, which is like you said, you wouldn't think a guy like him. You look at him and for every visual representation or reason, you just think, you know what, he's actually, you know, the guy in control, but in so many situations he's actually found it difficult. So yeah, very powerful story, that.
Yeah, he even like, you know, when you see him, right, like he does a lot of stuff, like he done the he done Wired's What I Do in 24 Hours, and like he does a lot of hosting stuff. And so when I've seen him, right, like not in character, like I've just seen him like on like these YouTube stuff or any like behind the scenes kind of stuff, and I don't know too much about him. I know that he's in Brooklyn 999. I was gonna say Brooklyn 911. He's in Brooklyn 99 and stuff like that, but I love watching his behind the scenes stuff, bro, because his character is so there's good you could take from it, and it's that you can tell that he's not scared what people think, even though he's like this big masculine man, bro. He just looks like he has fun all the time, and that requires so much dropping the ego in it. So like, just be like, I don't care what people think. Like if he wants to dance, have fun, whatever, like just like let loose. He lets loose. Right, and he looks like he has like a good time. I'm not saying like he should be seen as a role model or anything like that, but I'm saying like that aspect of like, he just looks like, you know what, he's experienced the ultimate thing that he thought that he wanted to experience out of like fame, money, and like physical strength and power, and he's realized that happiness actually just comes from dropping the ego and just like enjoying life.
There's something so amazing when you're around people that are so free as well. You feel it, don't you? When you're around people that just have this certain energy, you know, they're not even thinking about, they're just the purest version of them. There's a few people that we even know in our personal lives that are just like that. It's just, you're getting all of them in their most pure format, which is amazing. And that energy is lovely to be around as well, because it's just as they are, you know, and they're very comfortable with themselves. They like to share their energy. They like to bring other people into that as well, and it makes other people also loosen up. You know, people aren't feeling like everyone needs to behave a certain type of way, which happens very often, you know, especially in companies and certain social circles. It's like you have to keep the standard. But when you have people like with that type of personality, they just bring everyone a notch down, which, you know, allows everyone to be the true version of themselves, because a lot of time we're not.
So who is then, I'll go back to my original question, who is like someone who you're looking at their like work and you feel inspired by like their mindset or like the way they do business, specifically business?
It's a very good question, man. It's a very good question. I'm trying to actually find
a company that's like really doing, making moves right now that you're like inspired by. Okay, fine. Say any word.
Bro, you know what's crazy is there hasn't been too much of that recently, and maybe some will come up as we talk. But it's honestly because I've just been laser focused, man. I've been so... I was telling the boys outside like a couple of days ago, I just deleted Twitter off my phone, you know what I mean, as an example. It's just because I'm really, really, really enjoying being in my headspace in which I can like delve into this library of information and like go into all the little like holes and find things. That's the process I feel like I'm in right now. And because I'm applying it to something like Feed Source, it's very exciting. Like I'm really enjoying this moment of exploring my own mind and utilizing, you know, the skills I think I can like put to use. Why are you laughing?
No, just laughing because it's just because you're my brother, innit?
Yeah.
So I'm listening to you, but like I was just thinking to myself like, oh, like is this how he actually talks? Like when the cameras aren't on, and it is like this is how he talks to me. So I was thinking like it's actually quite interesting.
That's so funny. But yeah, man. So that's all I've been doing, bro. Honestly, if at times there's people that I'm inspired by, and that specifically happens when I'm seeking inspiration. I'm constantly seeking creative inspiration. That's a wavelength I'm always on. So, you know, tools I use Dribble, Behance. Right now, specifically, we're working on the studio and we're trying to get this certain design. I was looking at a lot of design inspiration, but that doesn't tend to be a specific person. It tends to be more like visual style and look. But apart from that, man, not too much. I haven't even been listening to that many like podcasts or reading books, or the only things I've been doing is creative exploration, which I always tend to do. And the only other thing I've been obsessed with recently is that operational efficiency. So just looking at just companies, the way they operate, like down to a minuscule level. And the thing that I've enjoyed most about that learning is the fact that, let's take an example of, Amazon. You press buy now, and a product arrives at your door. But what you don't realize is there's a million triggers you're setting off. So the experience, the illusion of it is the experience is flawless. Like you literally feel as if I pressed something, paid a bit of money, and something appeared at my door. That's the magic of it. That's the reason it's excellent, is because what you don't realize is there's a million triggers happening from, where you press it, the technology, the fulfillment warehouses, and even in the fulfillment centers, just the small things like finding which shelf you get product from and how you get it and how fast. That's one operation. There's millions of operations that happen, let's say per order, for instance. And that for me is super exciting right now, because I'm like putting it into place, and I'm obsessed with thinking about all of those fine tuning elements.
Yeah. So you're actually, have you mentioned that what you're going to do with that studio, in that you're going to, because that specific thing about understanding the processes that take place behind the scenes when someone like launches a product or launches a site or even runs a site, you're going to start analyzing like different people who you're going to break down like their processes. But have you made that public knowledge?
No, not properly.
Sure, so
no, but it's fine. What you've said is actually fine.
I tried making it vague.
Yeah, no, it's fine. That kind of just scratches the surface a little bit. But yeah, we haven't announced like exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it and the format or anything like that. But we're certainly, I want to provide access to the kind of information that, I've received over the years, the type of stuff that aligns directly with what we do in FeedSource, because we work with so many brands now. So we have this wealth of knowledge. And what's amazing is that so many people go through similar processes. So what I've always found interesting about the position I'm in, like think about over the 10 odd years that I've been doing anything in creative space, I'm always on the end of the creative. And by being on that end, it means on the other side are clients. And when you're working in that capacity, you see multiples of the same thing. Multiple people needing website, multiple people needing branding done, now content, photography. It's always been like that. Whereas from the brand side, they only see one. They see the creative they're working with. So they only see me. They don't see all of the other people that I've worked with. So now if you flip into my seat, I've got all of this context. And through that context, you learn stories. You understand that all of these people have a similar journey they're on, and they don't even realize it's similar. So small things like, to everyone, their business, their product, their service is the greatest thing in the world. Emotionally, in relative terms, to everyone is the greatest. It doesn't matter if a logo is good or bad. It's just how they feel about their own brand. What's also interesting is how people, have the same challenges in creating content or bringing a product to market. So those things have always been constants. And I don't think enough people realize that there's other people going through the same thing. So me having seen that, and us now as FeedSource, as a brand seeing that, we want to find ways to help empower brands and give them access to that information that can normalize that a bit and say, look, there's so many people going through what you're going through. On top of that, with COVID right now, look how many businesses are starting up online. First of all, look how many people are becoming unemployed, looking for new opportunities. We're now in a recession, and we're going to come out of this, and then there's going to be, prosperity, and people are also going to want to find new ways to perhaps live their life, change their careers. You don't know. And if we can, right now, I think we're a perfect intersection to share some of that knowledge. And with this new kind of side that we're going to be launching soon, I think that will hit all of those metrics.
What's your relationship right now with sharing that information, like sharing the process? Because you've always been, you've been like back and forth with the idea of like how much should you share with your audience, because you have on one hand like a really loyal audience who love watching your journey, and they love watching ups and downs, and they love just like how much you show them in terms of like what you're building. And then on the other end, I know personally that you have this challenge where it's not natural for you to share. Like it's natural for you to share. You're so selfish. It's not natural for you to like talk about what you're doing. You just like to do it. Like you hate distraction. You hate minutia. You just want to like sit down at your laptop and build. And that's like you at your core. But then you feel a level of responsibility to the community to share your journey. And then you're always going back and forth. You're like always seem to be fighting with yourself. It's like, should I share? Should I not? How much I share? How much I not? Are people interested? / are there a lot of people who are malicious watching and stuff like that. So where is your relationship with sharing right now, like your journey?
First of all, I think when you're creative at your core, you're highly sensitive. You're highly sensitive of, because to think about the type of work I do just as a designer, it requires a huge level of sensitivity, because you have to...
What's sensitivity?
Sensitivity. Sensitivity. You have to be very sensitive. Like, you become sensitive.
What's sensitive?
You become very sensitive because you have to constantly put yourself in the mind of other people. When you're designing, you're reverse engineering the way something works. So when I'm creating a design, I'm not just looking at how pretty it is. I'm thinking about the usability, the psychology. So I've always been in touch with my emotions and how I use products and tools, and also then how other people do because of the work I have to do. So that puts you in a frame of mind which I've just grown up in now, of being highly sensitive. So, you're very proud of your work. At the same time, you can sometimes be, too open to criticism, and then you've got to find a balance, like you're saying. So when it comes now to social media and things like that as well, it's the same thing. It's like, if I share too much, am I making myself too vulnerable? Because the nature of what I do as a designer feels vulnerable anyway. You're creating, you're getting yourself into the minds of other people. So that I always feel like there's a level of vulnerability that I'm doing in my day-to-day anyway. And then when I take it to a level of now sharing, it's almost like too open. And then it's almost like keeping something for yourself. But what I've come to learn now, and especially what I'm doing with my socials a bit now as well, is just making it a lot more to do with the process of what we're building, because I think that can be valuable for people, and our truth. Because we've been through the whole thing about, even with socials, you went through the whole no one knowing what it is, and then people get followers. It's the first time ever in history that mass amount of people have had a concept called followers, which is bizarre. And then people acting up for the gram or whatever. Then everyone putting out that Gary V style content and being a guru, you know what I mean? And now it's like, at some point it's got to get real. At some point it's just got to be honest. At some point we got to know that, look, there's too much as content, clickbait out there. Like, not everyone just needs to be motivated all the time. Sometimes just share your narrative. Just share the truth. For me, my truth is, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I run my business, it's a bootstrap company. I'm figuring it out. I put up screenshots of text messages I have with some people, like we're hiring over WhatsApp, and like just random stuff. But really, 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 bro, you even know from, like I said, we've had so long in this game now. Before social media even, we were running our own businesses, and we're lucky that we've actually been able to understand what real work is. And in this day and age, we get lost in understanding what real work is.
But does it bother you that sometimes, like, people may not know what was what they didn't see? Because I'll give some context, right? Like, Darren Brown, that illusionist. He did a show. So I read about this. I didn't watch it.
It was a Channel 4 one that he did when he showed how. Go on.
It's about coin flipping.
Oh no, go on.
Who, by the way, I would never promote or tell anyone to watch magicians and illusionists and stuff. It's completely against our deen. But I was reading this article on a psychology website, right? And it said that he was doing this. He was doing this a TV show where he flipped a coin 10 times and it always landed on heads, right? And they asked him how he did it behind the scenes, and he said, how I did it is I actually did that process over 100 times until it worked, and so it was just probability, but all you guys saw was the one that worked. So he just flipped a coin 10 times, hundreds of times, bro, but the time it landed on heads 10 times is the footage that they used for the show.
That's awful.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, it's not awful, it's just the truth.
No,
right?
Yeah.
So, but my point is that I'm trying to extract a psychological benefit out of it.
Yeah.
And the benefit is, people were amazed, right? How did he flip a coin 10 times and he was so sure that it would land on heads every time? But they didn't. But his advantage is that he saw what they didn't see, which is that he done it hundreds of times. Likewise, when people see maybe you're building this business or whatever you're doing, yeah, do you ever feel disheartened that people didn't see the times when you were you made yourself ill and in hospital because you were working so hard, or all the grafting that you done when you're 15? Because there's so much on social media of people faking that they've that they've been there, done that. They've like had money, and then they've lost it, and then they've like been at like such a high, and they've been at such a low, and mentally they've been up, and they use these things as a narrative to build a story of something that oftentimes doesn't actually exist, right? And they'll use like they might even like try and draw sympathy by saying that they went through this rough patch, when etc. 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 But being someone who, and I'm as a witness to it, being someone who you actually went through all that, like you started working like from such a young age, and then like you went through really bad lows and then really high highs, and then like you built businesses since you were 14, and then like you made some of them so successful, and then they crashed, like, and then you've been dealing with like all of these different things, right? But no one saw any of that because social media didn't really pop off until the last few years. And now in the last few years, you're like building all this stuff. But my question is, do you feel sad that maybe like people don't have that value of your information?
I get what you mean. It's that context. Yeah. No,
yeah.
But to be honest,
sorry,
it makes sense what you're saying, though.
Yeah, but to wrap it up, right? Like when I'm speaking to my clients, right? Yeah. So I was speaking to one of my clients today, right? And I was it was the guys in Dubai, and so these are to give context, are a branding client of mine, and I said to them literally this morning, and I say this all the time to like clients, right? I said to them, which is probably not very professional. But I said to them this morning, I said, like, you guys need to figure out a way, because they showed it. I said, you guys need to figure out a way of like bringing Omar down, even if it's for a few days, and just like benefiting from his experiences, because they alhamdulillah really value me, right? With what I bring to the table there. That sounds so arrogant, but like
you do a great job with them. No, it's very important.
It's important for context, and
you kill it with them. That's amazing what you've done.
I say to them that any value that I've brought to you, right, is like drips and drabs of value that I've gained after Allah, is value that I've gained from Omar. So like imagine if, like, for example, you was to get something and you were getting benefit from it, and then realizing that there's like 99% of it you haven't even got. It's like when you say that the human brain is like 6% of the human brain or 7% of the human brain we've actually unlocked. Imagine if we had full like human brain, right? And I kind of say to them, like, the information that I have really is been stuff that I've learned from my brother. So bring him, figure out a way of convincing him to come down for a few days, and you guys will really benefit. So I see the value because I've like watched your journey, but I always feel like people don't realize what your journey actually was, and like how much benefit there is like locked up in that head. I'm trying to not be like so.
No, I appreciate it. First of all, that's way too kind for you to even say all the stuff you just said. But I understand the context of what you're saying, and you're my brother, and you have this unconditional love, as I do with you as well. So and also you've had a front row seat. You've been there with me, right by my side. You know what I mean? Up until now, you're literally sitting by my side in our office, and I'm very proud of that. So what is important, I think, in what you're saying is, I try to share as much of that context as I can on socials when I track back to stuff that I've shared from the past. But yeah, without being there, of course, you can't get a full context of everything. And I think that's why even now I have faith in, the fact that I'm still very young, and people that will be a part of the journey from now will still see the smaller struggles, the fact that we're raising our first fundraising, we were a small office, we then moved to another place, or I had little children, and all these things. And then maybe this will be a different form of that struggle in comparison to the future. I think it'll always be a form of struggle. It's not like I'm trying to get to this incredible state at which I'm never struggling. I actually enjoy struggle. And I don't mean struggle in terms of right now, alhamdulillah, we're not at a point where we can't feed ourselves, can't look after ourselves. We're actually very blessed to be in a position we're in. But there's a struggle mentally, psychologically, a place that I put myself in to be able to push forward. But I enjoy that. And you've seen it many times before, is because of those adverse things we've been in from a young age, it's almost like conditioned. It's a bit like, when you fall over and you're every time you cut yourself, your skin gets stronger, right? It's like that. Like when you get punched in the stomach, or like literally physically, like the way karate trainers do it with bricks and concrete, their stomach becomes stronger, they can hold punches. It's literally that. So imagine the amount of times you're punched in obviously in metaphorical sense, you build up that skin. So now, like, even when I'm sharing information with you, when we're speaking to investors or people, it's like I feel it in myself. As soon as someone gives me an insight that pushes against like what we're creating or building or the vision of it, it riles me up in like I get excited to almost say, see you later. You know what I mean? Because I'm just like, I believe in us. I believe what we can do. I know what we can do. And I just want to go and do it. Like, I almost want to like have all of the smoke. Like I say, like, you know what I mean? You want all of that. You just want someone to be able to doubt you all the time. But it's because I've been so used to that I just get on with it. Now, like you're saying, when you just get on with it, I do that, bro. Like, even with my employees now, alhamdulillah, Feed Source is growing. We've got some employees, and we're speaking to an employee of ours, and I was explaining to her some of our ideas, specifically that concept that I just shared about what we're going to be launching soon. And I spoke to her 3 weeks ago, and I said to her, you know, we're going to be doing this. She goes, okay, great. So when we launch this, something like maybe 6 months, 9 months? I said, no, next week. And she was like, what? I said, yeah. And like, the next week we had our studio built, you know? So it's just an example of, for me, everything is now. Like, even though it's things that we're doing this week, like it's also, if you think about the way Feed Source is, Fast, there's perceived value of time and there's actual value of time. And there's a perceived value to content creation, of how long it should take, how long a photographer takes, how much they charge, all this perceived value. Basically, all of this just faff. And then there's a true value that actually is as quick as a photo being shot, which is a millisecond. Now, while all of the, coming back to what I was saying earlier on about the efficiency, while all the individual elements that need to be taken care of so that you can optimize that shot. That's a small example of how, for instance, we'd work in Feed Source, and how I think about so many things we do. When we now are launching this new platform we're launching, where I designed the entire platform yesterday from home while my son was unwell, on the kitchen table whilst having lunch, and I was screenshotting it to you. And that, for instance, if you went to an agency, they charge you maybe 25 grand to do that, and 6 weeks. It happened in an hour. Does that make sense? And it's because of my ability to understand true value of things, that's what gives me, and I think that's because of everything we've been through in the past, I just have this kind of scope of just wanting to get things done and push forward based on their actual value of what needs to be done, not like the way the world sees it. And I think if I can share that value somehow, that for me is what I want to do. I
came to you the other day for some advice, and which I often do when it comes to kind of the business stuff. And I think that the advice that you gave me was really valuable and would be valuable for people listening who are in this position that I was in, right? And I came to you and I said, the social media posts that I'm putting out now on my personal profile, I have this want to now be able to provide value to my audience. I think social media is going in a direction now where we've been through the phase where what was popular on social media was like gaining a personal brand through like selfies and sharing your personal life, and then that has we as a society have come to the realization that stuff is so materialistic, right? And I feel like we moved on to now social media being about how everyone can provide value to each other, and that's where the currency is now. It's no longer at being intrigued by people's personal lives. Either that's the trend that's taken place, or we've gotten older and therefore it's actually the younger people now who are like the selfie culture, and as you get older, what we want from social media is value, and therefore what we try and put out as value, right? And so I said that like what I want from my social media now is I want to be able to provide value to my audience, and make sure that, but my worry is in providing value that I'm not now providing value, a fake value, right? Like value that I don't even like try and adhere to myself. And or value that I'm like Googling and then putting it into a nice little Instagram carousel and then putting it out. Like I only want to provide value for that so if I've experienced something, let's say for example, okay, COVID happened, right? Freshly Grounded, our like key business strategy was live events, right? Like we build a community through the podcast, we build this like audience, and we connect with the audience, and rather than like trying to just like extrapolate money from the audience and try and be kind of so sinister, we keep a sincere relationship with our audience, but every now and again we do a live event, and those who want to come down to the live event, and that helps us because we're able to monetize that, right? And then so when COVID came, monetization was like just pulled completely from under our feet because it removed live events. And so therefore COVID became for us. This last 10 months for Freshly Grounded has been on the business angle, on the audience and productive angle of like connecting with our audience. It's been great, but from the angle of like us keeping ourselves alive, it's been, oh no, live events are out the window. How do we turn our business around? And so we went into survival mode. And in survival mode, in the trenches, alhamdulillah, we actually have grown the fastest we've ever grown. And things are even better than they were. It was like we had to go through that really rough patch in order to come out and realize, like we have great ideas like the card game and more content that we want to put out and stuff like that our audience love, but then also we're able to then keep ourselves on our own 2 feet. Out of that, right, I want to take lessons and then on my personal brand, give value to audience. We everyone's going through a rough patch during COVID. Here's how we went from survival mode to our fastest growth, and then provide value. Right now, the reason I came to you for advice is I said, how do I balance me giving value to the audience with having a clear narrative? Because a clear narrative isn't me, because me providing value from my experiences is sometimes sometimes I go through something as a father and I want to put that out, but sometimes I go through something as a businessman and I want to put that out, and sometimes I go through something as a person who's trying to increase my knowledge Islamically and I want to share that. But all three of those things are so different that I have to now pick a niche. In my head I was thinking, I have to pick a niche. Otherwise, I'm not going to resonate with anybody because I'm going to be so vague with all the posts that I put out. And I said, Omar, how do I now refine down? How do I have a niche? And that's then what I put to you. And then you gave me advice. And I think the advice that you gave me was really powerful and it would benefit a lot of people. Do you remember what your advice was? I think
it's better for you to say it, because you'll remember exactly how it translated to you and how you read it. I remember along the lines of, we were speaking about not focusing too much on trying to think too much of the narrative to actually feel like you're adding value, but that's true to what you're doing, and let the work you're doing speak for itself through Freshly Grounded, and that be a reflection of the narrative and the story. So how that grows.
Yeah, that was exactly it. You said stop trying to think about the narrative. Stop trying to think about where your niche is, what the narrative is. Just think about how you can provide genuine value, which means that everything you do is true to yourself. You don't forsake or sacrifice something that's true to you for the sake of you thinking that there's going to be value at the end of it. And that's like even an Islamic principle. Like even Islamically, right? We shouldn't give up our morals and ethics because we think that something's going to benefit us, like in the dunya sense, or even just because we think something's going to benefit us. So, for example, if someone's offered me £1,000 for a job, and I genuinely think this person can do it a lot better, selfishly I would say, oh yeah, give it to me. I'll figure it out, even though I don't have the time, and I know this guy can do it better. But I could say, do you know what? That's my brother in Islam, and he needs the money right now, and he can do it better than me, and it will benefit you guys. Give the money to him. Islamically, that's the correct thing to do, and I have to trust in Allah that because I've done something for the sake of Allah to help a brother, that I will never lose out. Right?
Yeah, reciprocate.
So it's an Islamic concept as well. But yeah, your advice was basically be true to who you are. Put out the content that is just who you are, and everything else falls into place.
Yeah, I think if you even take yourself individually, like literally you, Faisal, and you line yourself up against maybe 1,000 people your age, you've got bullet wounds, scars, and war, just like what's it called? Experience of being in war almost, that many people won't have. And when I give you advice, or even when we speak between us, I have to take that into consideration, because the reason you are who you are in the many facets of your life, from fatherhood to business or whatever it is, come from the way that you've also grown up, the way things that you've also learned, and it's been a lot. So for a 26-year-old, it's a hell of a lot, as would be mine for my age, for instance. So we have to have faith in the volume of experience, the silent successes, meaning I don't mean like successes as in the term that people might see success. The silent success is meaning in terms of your personality, in terms of that scar tissue, like I'm saying, that competitive advantage that you'd get. Those are silent successes. No one sees those, but they're things that have built you up. They built resilience. They built character. They built personality. You know, you have certain charisma. There's all these small things that allow you to then be able to do the things that translate into the physical, tangible sense, which are your live events. As a prime example, I can't even execute that. You know what I mean? The way you did it at the Audible's, for instance. So those type of things are examples that when you're in it, it's almost like, yeah, of course, yeah, I did a live event, I'm going to do it, But there's levels to it. There's levels to having a vision for the Islamic scene and the content. It came from something as small as wanting to not listen to music and having no other content to consume, to doing an event at the most prestigious venue for a theatre arts show in central London, and for a niche such as the Muslim scene with a segregated audience the way you wanted to have it. Like so many things that you broke barriers, you know, that would seem that no one's even done. So I think those are very important because those are the silent successes. The things that allow you to do that are all the millions of things that it took for you to get there that no one can see. And you can't describe those. That's experience. That's sheer war battle. And you have to go through that, and I think that's when time tells. So you have to have faith in, you know, who you are. Know that eventually whatever needs to play out will play out. Time declutters all the mess, bro. How many times have we seen over the last 10 years people, you know, come to us for client work, projects? I've got this idea, got that idea, got this app I'm launching, this product I'm launching. Bro, how many of them are probably still around? You know what I mean? Like virtually none.
Okay, but the advice you're giving, right, which I resonate with and I agree with, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
The advice that you're giving goes against the algorithm.
Yeah.
And so all of these like gurus online and people who talk about marketing and branding, they always talk about going with the algorithm, right? Like, for example, the advice you're giving me is... forget the algorithm, man. Like, forget if the algorithm says like you have to, for example, now that Instagram is doing reels, like blast the reels. If blasting reels means that you're now going to put out content that's not genuine, don't do it. That's kind of the advice you're saying, right? You're like genuine, like being genuine trumps everything else.
I think anything in life, even an algorithm, anything that makes you have to adapt or change the core of who you are and what you would do otherwise is a problem. Like if something comes into the world and now is like, you should do things this way, and you're like, yes sir, I'm now going to change the way I do things and start dancing around, would you have done that otherwise? So there's context, and then there's the actual message. So the message you want to put out should be able to translate into any context as long as it's true to who you are and true to the way you are. If it's something that doesn't relate to that, then it's probably not something that you should do or that would feel natural. And also, you shouldn't feel the need. It's a bit like, for instance, we have this conversation often as parents. I was having just last night with we were at a friend of ours house, and he's a parent, kid similar to our age. Kids similar to the kids my kids' age as well. And one thing we're speaking about, you know, it's so often like a dinner topic tends to be, look how the world's changing. Look at Instagram now. It tends to be such a fallback conversation at a dinner table, right? But I actually was having a conversation with him. I said, look, we actually, similar to the way Islam came about, there was context and then the message, right? And it's similar to the way we raise our children. We raise them with context and then the message. And similarly, we should be living our lives where when you within your children, you instill how to deal with things, the tools, the resources, the ways of thinking. And that was one thing when you're speaking about people that inspire you. Even Seth Godin, he put out once someone asked him how, you know, things you should do to raise your kids, and he said the key things are teach them responsibility, teach them how to lead. It's very important you instill these traits in your children, and when these traits come into place, no one can predict. We couldn't predict how the world was 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago, let alone 50 years ago. So how can I expect me to even prepare for what the world's going to be like with my daughters in primary school, let alone high school? So I would be driving myself crazy trying to predict that. You know, instead, I have to instill the tools and resources in my children and in myself so that we can then be equipped for anything. So similar to the algorithm, it doesn't matter about the algorithm. Anything that comes out is what it is. There's always going to be an algorithm with its own agendas, and then you should be able to adapt based on those tools and say, oh, you know what, this works for me, and this is how I can do it. It works. Not that, oh, Reels is popping, everyone's dancing, I'm a shy guy, and now I've got to start dancing because I'm an optometrist and I need to be the dancing optometrist because otherwise I'm not going to make money. That's my point, is you got to bet on yourself in the long term and let the mess declutter itself, and that will happen.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I'm actually doing like a Zoom class or something tomorrow, right, with some people, and one of the things I intend to talk about is using the algorithms to your advantage, right? But
which makes sense, within its context,
right? There's context, and so that's one of the things I want to say is that I agree with you completely in that falling prey to or submitting to the algorithm every time is potentially gonna give you short-term wins, but there's no longevity in it, because what you're doing is you're sacrificing your core every time for like what the new thing is or what the new algorithm is, and so all of a sudden, like I said, have you actually seen Instagram's new UI? I've got
the way the pluses at the bottom is a reel.
And there's real, and there's also shop on the other side. I've seen that.
Yeah.
They're really pushing shop. But anyway, so there's ways you can use that algorithm to your advantage, of course, like the YouTube algorithm, the Instagram algorithm. If you want to grow your business, you should be using the algorithms to your advantage. And especially even with business, like your business has a brand, right? And your business is morals and ethics. And so I agree that if you can use the algorithm to your advantage and still keep your morals and ethics, you should use the algorithm to your advantage. However, you should never substitute your morals and ethics with the algorithm, because what is even more powerful than the algorithm is your core personality, because that has a longer lasting effect.
It's a prime example of, the holding the world in your hands and not your heart, because you can't. It's a frame of mind. What you're saying now is that if you it's a frame of submission. Like, even if you think to the way like the greatest negotiators, even the people that are controlling in relationships, they start, and this is very deep, but it's important to understand this to anyone that's listening. These tools that are out there are created by expert psychologists, ingrained down into the depths of the way your hormones work that you don't even realize is doing to you. And we can observe it and say, oh yeah, when I wake up, I check my phone, and like it just becomes a passing thing that's normalized, but it's inherently a problem, and it's placed there, it's positioned there for a reason. What I mean by that is, if you think about people in, abusive relationships sometimes, or controlling, any type of controlling, I don't want to say abusive specifically, to be honest, because, that's very sensitive, but just in controlling environments, the controller, in this case being social media, for instance, has a suggestive method. It's like me, if I can convince you, if I can say to you, hey, Fast, would you mind grabbing me some water, and get you to do that act, you've submitted in one sense. You've done one thing. You know what I mean? It's one step closer to now me getting to the greatest thing, which is saying like, jump off a cliff or whatever it is, you know what I mean? It's that slow building mechanism. And we have to be aware that as humans, we're built in that way, that we're seduced into acts, and then there's a person who's seducing us, or the tool that's seducing us. And we have to be aware of that. We can't let ourselves be seduced. So where these social media things, it's very easy to be like, oh, here's a little thing, and they push you a type of way, and it's like, try this or try that. It's like constantly giving you drugs, and like, here's a little drug. And when a certain drug can't satisfy you enough, you're looking for the next drug, and you constantly feel like that. So you have to be careful not to become a submissive person. I don't know if submissive is the right word, but a person that falls prey to that anytime something new comes out, it's the only way I know how to operate. That the only way I can stay on top of my game is if I take the new drug. And if you keep thinking like that, you'll always be fall prey to that, and that's the only way you'll operate. Whereas when you empower yourself, and it's crazy that we have to think of that now, that you have to empower yourselves to remove yourself from this control, but it is the way the world's becoming. Like, for example, I deleted Twitter. I'll give you a small example. I go through it as well. So it's not that me sharing this means that I'm not prone to this. I am. But we have to remove ourselves and look at what's right for us and how should we be operating. And it's not normal to consume the levels of information and use the tools the way they are out there. It just has to be done, like I said, in a contextualized manner that is true to who you are. That's what I believe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, man. It's just about, like you said, like controlling the situation, holding it in your hand and not your heart. And
but Twitter, I'll share this actually because I think it might be insightful. I deleted. I didn't even speak to you about it yet, Fast. About the reason I deleted Twitter the other day is I went on. So I like using Twitter for a news source mainly. Like
That's what I use it for.
So I just know what's going on. Which I actually right now like I'm craving to do because there's certain things that I just haven't seen have happened in the world which I know would be good for me to know. Yeah. So, but the problem is, which I can't figure out yet, and I don't know if it's the tool or the way you use the tool, it's that there is great for news and topics, and if I can just get that, I'll be happy because I don't like going to news outlets for that because they give you the broader news. I do like street level what's going on. But the other side of it, which is toxic, is people's anger, man, and their debates and the things they get angry about. Outrage. But the point I'm making is that for you to be able to wake up on a regular day with blessings in your life and then to see something and be like, that has absorbed me and I'm now going to fight this based on someone else's actions. So 2 things here. 1, you're susceptible to that. Number 2, how do you not know that's even cultivated top down to keep you framed in that argumentative state to distract you from what's really going on in the world? It's like that gets conspiracy level, so I'm going into that. But it's just the fact that it's so, like, for me, is destructive because I'm losing myself in those thoughts. And regardless of whether I'm reading it or not, it's still an unnecessary piece of information that's sitting in my mind that's just there, you know? Like just something, like anything could be like, the people fighting over like what brand of drinks the best or anything, you know what I mean? The about stuff that go on. And of course, there's loads of useful information on there because you learn so much. But I feel that more now than before, it's more toxic information that is just, you know, unreasonable accounts and arguments. So when that happens, it becomes too much to consume. And then you carry those things in your head the whole day. And it was being a massive distraction. So I thought, look, let me just delete it. And you know what I did actually? You know when you were leaving my house the other day, and you're reversing out my drive, I literally was sitting in my car and just deleted it. Yeah. Because it was that day, bro. I was just like fed up of just seeing so much madness. And yesterday I just logged on via the web just to check trending topics. Yeah, but I didn't like re-download the app. But it's a small example, man. That's how I'm trying to take control of even my thoughts. And because like I said, right now I'm in a frame of mind where I'm very focused, I'm very driven. We have a great outlook on what we're doing. And I just feel, you know, of course, there's important information that you need to know. And that's what I'd love if Twitter gave me important information only. But unfortunately, it gives you 80% of arguments, and that becomes very distractive to me.
Yeah, I as you know, I love reading the news every morning, right? Because especially like I think the fact that I live in London, live in UK.
Do you do it over Twitter, by the way?
I'll tell you now.
Oh, go on.
I'm about to reveal my news secrets.
Because I want to figure it out for myself. If there's a better way to use Twitter, I don't mind, but I just can't find a good way of using it.
Yeah, no, there's not. Twitter is a very negative place.
Yeah.
So basically, I read the news every morning, and one of the reasons I read the news is because I'm aware that with the lifestyle choices that I've made, when I first started like taking religion seriously, right, I really became this like hermit who didn't understand anything, right? And it was tough because I went from being like someone who always understood like popular culture references, understood what was going on in the world, and then I started removing things from my life that I didn't want to consume anymore. But then the price of that was also I never understood like what anyone is ever talking about. I didn't like that. And in an office environment where understanding what's going on in the world is beneficial, bro. Like even if it's just for your sanity to like be able to conversate with other people, or in business when you're negotiating and like understanding what's going on in the world, right? And so I consume the news every morning, and it really helps because I understand like I might like, for example, not understand who a person is and what they do because they're in an industry that I'm not a consumer of. However, I know that person's name, I know what they're up to, and it makes sense to me. And so now if it comes up in conversation, I get the general point of the conversation, and I can even like add to the conversation and stuff. I find it really beneficial. And a perfect example is like US politics, right? Like obviously in the last few weeks, US politics has been at the top of the news articles. And although I don't care for these politicians, it's important for me to be up to date with like what's going on. And even just understanding that, Trump like is calling for a revote and he feels like it's unfair and he's having a hissy fit and all this kind of stuff, and it's important for me to know so that when people are talking about it, I don't go through that phase where I feel like I don't understand anything or anyone. Do you know what I mean? I'm digressing here.
What's the tool you use?
Yeah. But have you seen there's this like Let me just Google it quickly. It's something really funny, yeah.
You know what I was gonna say is if there was a way just to find out, I would love to just know about like social issues and problems that like are accumulating that need to be solved and people are jointly solving like something. I would love to. That's information that I enjoy Twitter for. Like I like seeing it, you know, things that are going on right now. Like Kwanda is a great example of that, by the way. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. It's Kwanda. A good friend of mine, Jermaine, started this platform called Kwanda, where you basically put money into a pot and it goes towards black communities and different projects that are going on there. So for instance, you might be doing something in Ghana or Nigeria, and then you can actually see the progress, and it's just a very progressive brand. It looks beautiful. It's such a simple model as well. You can literally donate like £3 a month, for instance. But things like that I think are great for social media, and I think amazing things happen when people come together using their creativity and problem solving. I just don't think we're better for arguing, and we're better for, and especially not, again, the context is wrong over Twitter, for instance. The message might be right, but we've got to get the context right in the first place.
So, you know, by the way, people are always saying that the biggest criticism I get on Freshly Grounded is like that I don't get to the point and I like blabber around a subject, and this has been, I think, the ultimate episode of that, hasn't it? The news tool that I use.
Come on, Ant and Deck. I've been for entire Kinder Bueno waiting for this.
Okay, so basically, right, I started. My point was that I started reading.
If it's Google,
I started reading the news on Apple News. Because what Apple News does...
I'm waiting.
Do you use Apple News?
No.
Bro, you should use Apple News.
Okay.
Do you know why Apple News is good?
Go on, let me check it out.
Because it starts understanding what kind of articles you read, and it curates your articles over time for you. So for someone like yourself, you'll start getting a lot of articles about tech, the startup world, about psychology, and they're the kind of articles I get recommended, which is really cool. Yeah. So I don't get as much like celeb news and like that kind of thing. So your Apple News gets curated to like, and you can even do stuff like just switch, if you don't want to get distracted, you can switch off like images and stuff. So it's like read only, so it's just literally black and white text, so you can get the information. Anyway, but I did see some articles that were like a bit like paparazzi, and so I started getting some news from Twitter, which I do check still every day just to see what people are talking about in the world. Like for example, one of the popular things that people are talking about today is that there's a guy, his name's Shane Ritchie. He played Alfie Moon on EastEnders. You know what I'm talking about? He's presenter and stuff like that. Bro, so imagine him, yeah. This is actually quite interesting. Sorry, let me finish off one last point. So now I also read psychologytoday.com because I like reading, because like news is like, it's a bit like, like gives you a headache, you're distracted. When you read Psychology Today, bro, you gain something every day. Like you understand like that psychologytoday.com is where I read the article about the Darren Brown thing, for example. But it's really interesting.
Okay, go on.
I don't know what I was saying.
You were going to say about Alfie Moon.
Yeah, so bro, what happened, bro? This is quite interesting. This is quite an interesting lesson on perspective. This guy is a famous actor. He's in one of the UK's most famous popular soap operas, EastEnders. He's a host of like many TV shows and stuff. And he is doing I'm a Celebrity this year because he said this himself. He said because since COVID happened, a lot of his jobs got cancelled. He does like pantomimes and hosting gigs and stuff like that. They got cancelled, and he's got himself in lots of debt. And he borrowed money off his mates and off the banks and stuff like that. And so he's doing I'm a Celebrity to pay off all of his debts. But how interesting is that, perspective-wise, in that the average person would see someone like that, a famous man, he's in the UK's most popular soap opera, he's a presenter, and he obviously gets paid racks for what he does, but COVID hit him, he got his jobs cancelled, and he's in debt now, he borrowed money off his mates. And it just goes to show that if you're sitting there comparing your life with others, you're really doing the worst thing you could do, because you're not being grateful for what you have. Like, you might just be at a job where you get £1,500 a month, and that covers all of your costs. But right now, and then you're looking at someone like that, and you're like, oh, he's famous, this, that, the other. But right now, he's in a worse situation than you because you've got no debts, and he has. It just goes to show, bro, don't compare your life to others, doesn't it?
Yeah, bro, 100%. Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very. Yeah, because a lot of people, when you hear stories of various people, they don't realize what they're going through. Your perception is different to actually the truth of what's might be going on. And yeah, sometimes we base our judgment only based on perception. You know, we build a whole story around that, and then.
Another interesting one that I told you about was like us comparing our life to others. Like often we compare our life to footballers and stuff. And I was telling everyone about the Gareth Bale thing. I told you about that.
Yeah.
Like I think he's earning like 400 million a month or something.
400
crazy.
million a month.
No, sorry.
Like 400 grand a week maybe or something. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know how much he earns, but a lot of money.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands a month.
Like I think it's like like
Maybe
200 grand a week or something.
Probably saying.
Something like that, 200 grand a week. Let's say he's earning 200 grand
Here
a
or
week.
there.
Yeah. 200 grand, 400 million in a month, something. So obviously, bro, all of us would be like, that's a level of money that if I had that, I'm sorted. Do you know what I mean? But because of I think I mentioned in this podcast that I read this article that because of his sister-in-law is a model or something, and she borrowed money or lost like the mafia's money or something like that, right? The mafia are after her. They want their money back. And they know that her brother-in-law is Gareth Bale. And so they recently torched his grandparents' car in Wales,
crazy,
right?
I'm checking it.
And they're after him for money. And so when he moved back to the UK, because he just got signed to Tottenham on loan, he obviously wanted to go back to Wales where he lives, because that's where he's from, and he can't go back to Wales for safety issues because his mafia is after him for something that he didn't even do, bro. And so he moved to London, even though that makes sense because he's playing for Tottenham. So bro, imagine this, yeah. You got like all the money you could dream of, but you can't sleep at night. You can't sleep at night with anxiety because every time your wife and kids go out, you're worried that something might happen to them because of a mistake that you didn't even make. Now you can't sleep at night. Now look at your shoes. The majority of us can sleep at night. The majority of us don't have the mafia after us. And so we can sleep at night. We might not have 400 grand or 400 million in the bank, but we would never trade any amount of money for the peace of being able to sleep at night.
Yeah, bro, it's interesting. I'm just reading about it, man. It's actually insane. No,
Sorry,
bro. It's crazy, yeah. It's really interesting, yeah. I was reading about the...
Is it true what I said? Because I read it.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't say about the grandparents thing, but I did say that when he moved back here, like all the hate that came with it, and yeah.
Mad, bruv. And it's something that he didn't do. So the point is just don't compare your life to others, man. If you compare your life to others, you're always going to be upset. You're never going to be grateful. But as soon as you say, you know what, I might have not a lot of wealth, or I might have not a lot of kids or whatever, right? But I have the ability to sleep at night. I have like amazing health. I remember speaking to someone once, I can't remember who it was I spoke to, and they're like, I've never been to a hospital.
Because they're just be blessed, mashallah.
They're just so healthy, bro. They said the only time I've been to hospital was when my child was born. Who was that? I can't remember. I think it's a guest on the podcast. I was shocked, bro. But the guy was like double my age. And I was like, at 26 years old, I can't count on my hands and feet how many times I've been to the hospital.
The smallest.
That's
things.
more than 20. Bro, like I've had to go to hospital for like when I was a kid with my asthma stuff.
I know me to
Bro, I was born in the hospital, man. But
molded by it.
yeah. It just goes to show you should be grateful for everything. Listen, man, thanks for jumping on the F.G. I know that you have a day of work and tasks.
No, my pleasure, man.
And thanks for walking over about 15 steps into my studio from your desk.
Yeah.
And
quite the mission. No,
yeah.
I'm really grateful, man. I always enjoy just having a chat, man. It's nice. Anything that we can do to reconnect with the audience. I think it's amazing what you're doing. I'd say if anything to the audience, just keep supporting FG, man. I always speak to Faisal off, just like, in our personal conversations, and constantly tell him how important it is what he's doing. Like anytime, I know things get difficult, trying to operate, operation like this when, like you're saying, events are such a big part of it and you've got to keep growing and doing what you can do. But you guys adapt amazing, mashallah. That's a testament to your versatility and your drive as well. But I think the audience, you guys play a massive, massive role, and your engagement. Like Faisal comes to me and says, look how many people shared this, look how much engagement we got, look how many people are coming. Like anytime you guys show FG love, it has a huge impact on how motivated these guys get to putting things out more. And I think, again, that's speaking on what Faisal was just saying about, what you might perceive of people as well. And, your input actually has a massive impact in the growth of this brand. So that's one message I'd say to the audience, is just constantly keep supporting, man. This platform is I think the life and blood of our this kind of Muslim generation right now, honestly.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much, bro.
No.
I'll see you in there.
Yeah, see you in the room.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Sorry for those who watched and just thought it was like an hour of blabber, but yeah, I'm sure a lot of people will just like being a fly in the wall in that conversation. So Jazakallah khair, we'll see you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.